Good evening, you're watching Estuary TV News. Coming up, a mission of mercy, remembrance of RAF food drops over Holland at the end of the Second World War. Riding through the ridings, how God's own county welcomes the Tour de Yorkshire, and Emma is here to review the local papers this week. Welcome to Estuary TV News. I'm Hugh Richards. First of all, it's over to Emma Lingard for the news headlines.
Hello. Cleethorpes Pier is to create 50 jobs on the South Bank. The pier's owner, Simon Huxford, says the renovations to turn the pier into a restaurant and conference facility are going well. Several of the posts will involve working alongside celebrity chef Nigel Smith, and Simon told us what the role involves.
He will be responsible for the main menu designs, and they'll be responsible for ensuring that all the training of front of house, back of house is undertaken, that the standards are set, maintained, and hopefully he's in it for a long time with us.
Grimsby's Longitude Wood is one step closer to winning an award. The wood, which was planted by volunteers from the John Harrison Foundation back in November, received a visit last month by judges from the Lincolnshire Environmental Awards and has been selected as one of the 3 finalists for the community category. The winners of the awards will be revealed at a ceremony at Lincoln's Bentley Hotel later in May. After months of training, the Red Arrows 2015 display season gets underway with a new team leader at the helm. It's the 51st season for the aerobatic team, which showcases the Royal Air Force, and the first as team leader for squadron leader David Montenegro. More than 80 displays involving precision flying are expected to be performed across the country and overseas between now and the end of September. Drop-in sessions for cancer patients in Grimsby are being held. The weekly sessions are for those who have been recently or previously diagnosed with upper gastrointestinal cancers. It will involve giving additional support and advice. Appointments are not necessary and they begin on the 7th of May at Centre 4 in the town. And over the bank holiday, people are being reminded to look after themselves if they become ill before dialing NHS 111. It comes from the North Lincolnshire Clinical Commissioning Group. Amateur artists are taking to the limelight at Grimsby Minster over the bank holiday. The North East Lincolnshire Art Society is holding an exhibition lasting 2 weeks where the works will be for sale. The president of the North East Lincolnshire Art Society says it's a chance for amateur artists to gain exposure.
It's an opportunity to display what you're able to do. There are all sorts of media, oils, watercolour, abstract, everything that you can think of, pencil, pastel, and it's just a great opportunity to be able to put your best works forward and let people see them.
A small team of people will be visiting Holland this weekend from the village of Kirmington in North Lincolnshire. The trip is to commemorate and reflect on 70 years since the RAF Kirmington food drops over the Netherlands at the end of the Second World War. Richard Morris reports.
Today, 30 people will be leaving the small village of Kirmington in Lincolnshire to travel to Holland to officially twin Kirmington and Terwillegar together, the town which was helped so much by the food drop operation at the end of the Second World War. According to organisers, it's so important that these events from history are not forgotten.
It's one of these things that are forgotten. Like a lot of things are forgotten what happened during the war, and especially right at the end of the war when it's within about 2 weeks of the end of the war in Germany. Everybody thinks that Lancasters was just sitting on the tarmac and doing absolutely nothing. But obviously what happened, we weren't aware that the Germans were actually starving the Dutch. King George VI was contacted by Dutch royal family to see whether anything could be done. He obviously got on to Churchill. Churchill obviously got on to the Royal Air Force. And the gentleman that was actually tasked with it, Air Commodore Geddes, was told to sort it out. So he actually went over there to discuss it with the Germans. The Germans were umming and ahhing, and he says, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you there's going to be a truce. And we are going to fly whether you say yes or whether we don't.
Bert Wellman is a Dutchman who has lived in the village since 1967. He said people from all over are taking part.
I believe that also from various parts of Lincolnshire there are similar groups. And I presume that since the commemorative situation will be held in Sparta Stadium, which is a big football club, that there will be a few thousand people altogether attending this.
As well as the main event on Saturday, while the group are there, it makes sense to do a little more sightseeing in their itinerary.
The villagers have decided, a group of them, about 30, to fly out on Friday morning to be present at the commemoration on the Saturday. And we want to use the opportunity to visit, for instance, the famous Keukenhof in Holland, the famous flower bulbs, of which I'm very proud, being Dutch. Then we're being treated by the people of Estuary who we are going to twin with. The village of Kermington will be twinned with Estuary, and they will treat us to a fantastic meal, and on the Sunday they will also take us out on the trip in Rotterdam on the harbour, and also to the War Museum, and commemorating again the great effort of the 166 Squadron.
You're watching Estuary TV News. A little later, we'll be pursuing the schedule of the first citizen of Beverley in Where's the Mayor, and Dan Kemp will be back to bring you all the sports news. Our news editor, Emma Lingard, hot-foots it from the news now to join me for a weekly look at the region's newspapers. Emma.
Hello, how are you?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Good,
What have
I'm
you
very
found?
good. Well, I've been going through all the papers, and one of the things that did catch my attention was Coast Watch in Skegness. This is in the Skegness Standard. I think, probably when we first began, we did have somebody from Coast Watch actually come on the sofa. And basically, they're an organisation which keeps an eye on Skegness's beaches. And they need volunteers to be able to keep their good work going, because they rely on volunteers, like I suppose a lot of the fund, like the RNLI and things. And it's the National Coast Watch Institution in Skegness. They've got a new home at the Miners' Retreat, but after leaving their old base in Skegness, a lot of the members were unable to assist and keep involved with it, which has resulted in them losing a significant amount of people, and now they need more people to come on board, because they basically watch the beach 7 days a week, and it's not only looking out for people that might be using the beach, or off the coastline, surfing, sailing.
This is Skegness's answer to Baywatch.
Yeah, maybe I should apply for that.
Should.
Maybe I should don my red costume.
Yes.
Running down the beach.
Anyway, slow motion, yes.
Yeah, why not? Anyway, if people want to get involved, then they need to get in touch, because it's a vital service and they need those people. So I thought that was quite an interesting
well, good
one.
for them. I hope they thrive.
Yeah, hope so.
And Regency Hall, Regency Ball.
You know how much I like Mr. Darcy.
Well, I do, yes.
I didn't find him last year, did I? Can you
no,
remember
I
last
do.
year,
We went
Hugh?
dancing together in Horncastle, weren't we? In the
did.
Regency Ball then. It was wonderful. It was great fun.
Well, it's the Regency period again, all over the May Bank holiday weekend. They're at Gunby Hall and Gardens. Julie and the crew will be there in full Regency outfit doing dance demonstrations.
Wonderful.
There'll be period hat and costume sales, a picnic. If Mr. Darcy would come along, I could go along to the picnic.
Emma, I think your infatuation with Mr. Darcy ages you slightly. I think I'm afraid that the heartthrob de nos jours is Poldark now, isn't it?
Well, oh gosh, well, yeah, give me Poldark any time, Hugh, I can tell you. It's Jane Austen, though. Everybody, I think, likes to dress up, don't they?
They do.
They like to dress up and get into spirit.
Particularly, that was a particularly well-dressed era as well, wasn't it?
It
Late
was.
18th century,
Ladies
early
were
19th century.
ladies and
Yes.
men were gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Weren't they? And I mean, we had such a good time.
I
can recall you doing a bit of dancing.
I loved it. I was absolutely wonderful. And I need to get myself a tricorn hat and a frock coat. Yes.
And a bit of a stick.
Okay.
Have we got a chance for another one?
Yes, we have. You pick it. What have you got?
Well, one thing which is happening again, and that's, I think, in the next couple of weeks, is the Churches Open Festival that takes place across Lincolnshire. More than 80 places are opening their doors over 2 weekends, which is one of I think the biggest and finest church festivals in Europe, is how the Market Raisin Mail describes it. It's in its 19th year, and basically it's to celebrate the church's place in history and to be able to go around and look at the architecture. And some of these churches are redundant and nobody goes there, and there's a chance to have a look behind closed doors. And you know my love of history.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
mean, this is
Well, I
the
love
one
history
thing
too.
that I'd probably pay a visit to go and see some of these.
And what will actually be happening? Is it just a chance to inspect churches that are not usually open, not usually in service, I say, no pun intended? But that you can, will there be a bit of information, a bit of guidance?
There is. Basically, there'll be information boards. On some of them, there will be people there, some serving tea and refreshments or giving guided tours. There's a bell ringing in some of them, art displays. And I think it's a way to showcase how churches can be used in different ways as well. So you can go to the Churches Festival website or pick up a brochure. And I mean, one of the truly remarkable ones, which I've never been to, is Stowe Minster, which is near Gainsborough. Sounds
wonderful. Emma, we'll come back for a little more in a moment. Earlier in the week, we brought you Bridlington's preparations for the Tour de Yorkshire. The race started there this morning, and over the next 3 days, it'll take in the sights of some of Yorkshire's most beautiful towns and cities. Day 2 sees the peloton making its way through the historic market town of Beverley. And Dan Kemp went along to one local business to see how it's getting ready to welcome almost 200 riders from all over the world.
You get to see Sir Bradley Wiggins and other famous cyclists, but the Tour de Yorkshire, like the Tour de France, means a lot more than just that. It'll be a huge boost to local businesses, and Gary Verity, Chief Executive of Welcome to Yorkshire, thinks it'll be a much welcome shot in the arm for the East Riding's economy.
I think for the economy in the East Riding, the Tour de Yorkshire is extremely important. If you look at the effect that the Tour de France had on Yorkshire's economy, but particularly the places that the Tour de France visited last year, although this won't be the Tour de France, it will still be significant, and it might be between a third and a half as much of an impact as the Tour de France had. So for those places in the East Riding that's getting the Tour de Yorkshire, this is a big thing.
Beer in a bottle has been on Ladygate in the town of Beverley for around 9 months, and Patrick Gladstone, the company's owner, has decided to bring in a new line of products that are proving popular.
Well, these, some of them are from local breweries, some are actually from breweries a bit further afield. We source beers from all over the place, but these in particular, the cycling themed beers, obviously with the Tour de Yorkshire coming through, brewers are doing special beers for the occasion, so we're stocking them because they're very popular. We found last year when we opened, there was actually a leg of the Tour de France came in Yorkshire, and that brought a lot of cyclists to the area, and there was a sudden spurt in people buying all these cycling themed beers, and I didn't realise why at first, but also a cycling cafe had opened in Beverley as well, and once or two tied together, they were selling very, very quickly.
And the economic benefits look to be wide-ranging. Gary Verity is confident that the big names taking part will help drive more crowds along the route, and therefore give a big boost to companies like Patrick's.
Having the big teams as well, Yam Cycling, BMC Cycling, Eurosport, Giant Alpecin, Team Sky, Team Wiggins. This is really important for us because it not only means that we've got a top quality sporting event, but it will attract the crowd. So a lot of people will want to come out and salute Sir Bradley Wiggins. This will be the opportunity to see a bit of history in the making and to support a great British, not just cycling icon, but a great British sporting icon.
We go over now to David Prattley in Hessel to ask, where's the mayor?
It's been very hectic over the last 2 weeks because next week is the election, and the number of functions which normally happen during the course of next week have been brought forward, which has made for a very busy time. A lot of activity with the other town councils, primarily town councils that are near to us. I've recently been across to Barton, and I've recently been across to Brigg, which I think, as I've said before, they are geographically they are our nearest parish councils. Going forward, I've now got my weekends back because a lot of the activity does take place over weekends. Going forward, we've got the election to think about. Because our town council, like most other town councils across the UK, are up for re-election. So we've got to go through that process. And at the same time, there are a lot of other events that take place in the town of Hessel, like there are with all the other towns. There's a lot of planning involved. We've got the Soapbox Derby coming up in July, which I know Barton particularly have been involved in the past, and South Ferriby have helped us with it. So there is a lot of activity coming up of a more, shall I say, informal nature.
We go onto the streets now to ask your opinions about whether young people should get a helping hand to get onto the housing ladder.
Well, yes, I do really. Gives a boost up. Do it all the time. That's the other one not going to get anywhere, are they?
Well, they've got no chance at the moment.
No.
Because the problem is that houses are too expensive, wages are too low, and what jobs they have got are these zero contracts which are totally no good to anybody. So they're just wasting the time. They might as well stay at home with the parents.
Oh. Yeah, because then they've got their own space. If they've got their own place, and it gives them more responsibilities.
It's just good for anybody to get on the housing ladder. Everybody needs a roof over their head. It's hard to get young people on the housing ladder if we're talking buying, but as many as people, I think as many as people as possible ought to be on it, because often renting costs as much as buying, and you've got nothing to show for it at the end of it.
At the moment we're stuck in a jam because nobody is buying cheap property at the bottom of the ladder, and as a consequence there's no movement up it.
They need it. They're the next generation and they need to have a start in life.
Emma's still with me for some more of the local papers this week. Emma,
yes.
you're feeling loved up.
I am feeling loved up, Hugh, because it's the start of May. Traditionally, May Day is the time when the Beltane fires, driving the oxen through the fire, but also it's when traditionally women would look for their true love.
Ah, well.
You see, and there's quite a few love stories in the paper, so I thought that tied in quite nicely with May Day.
The sap is rising and a young man's fancy turns to thoughts of love, yes.
Exactly, you know where I'm coming from here. But we're going to start off with courting coots.
Courting coots, okay.
Yeah. East Park in Hull, there's something called a splash boat, which it seems all the families in Hull like to go on, and it's not happening at the minute because a family of coots has made a large nest, so they can't get the boat operational.
In the boat itself? The coots?
No, they're not actually in the boat themselves. They've nested at the far end of the pool, you know, within the vicinity of it, so they can't disturb them. Now, coots are very territorial as well, it seems, and they'll swim menacingly towards intruders. And you just think, well, wow, you know, once again, nature has halted something, hasn't it? So they're hoping that once the coot, you know, has had their baby chicks and they've moved on, that they come. But there's a picture of the nest, Hugh.
Right.
And they're made out of big.
Well, they're not very
twigs,
big birds, but that's an absolutely massive nest,
exactly,
isn't it?
Exactly, and that's why they can't do anything.
Coots are the black ones with a little white mark on their heads,
That's it, and moorhens, and I always remember this, moorhens have a red beak, so arf in moorhen. That's how I remember that.
Very well,
oh,
okay.
Yeah, and then
like being with David Attenborough.
Better looking, I hope.
Well, absolutely, much better looking and far younger.
Driffield Times, then, going to move there. Driffield couple in their 80s, about to tie the knot. They've lived alone after their partners have passed away, and they fell in love after getting to know each other while they were neighbours in the same set of courts, which I thought was lovely, because it wasn't love at first sight, but they've been sitting on their own and they thought, why not join up?
Right.
Right.
Is this for reasons of tax efficiency, or is there a true romance here?
Hugh, no, they met each other and they thought, we have a connection.
They've been gazing across a crowded court at each other for all these years,
Yeah,
and they finally tied the knot.
Well, they have. Well, they're doing it because they're doing it as the cyclists go past the church, because they're up there in Driffield as part of the Tour de Yorkshire.
Very good.
And the other one that I've got is in Grimsby, a Grimsby couple, Dave and Beverly Halliwell, tied the knot. The first ever wedding service held at a care home.
Right.
Dave is in there being cared for because he has a life-limiting illness, and he wed his sweetheart. Lovely.
That is lovely.
It's a first for the care home.
It's very important, and of course now you can get married in all sorts of places.
Yes,
it's not just the traditional places.
Yeah, you can get married as pretty much where you like, can't you?
Just very quickly, there's a sewing story. It's extremely fast.
Yeah, Ormiston Academy in Cleethorpes, Sewing Bee. They're impressing family and friends, these children, by actually producing pillows, sock toys and bunting after
Brilliant.
school.
Fantastic, Emma. Thanks very much.
That's all right.
Time now to go over to Dan Kemp for the sport.
Grimsby Town have 1 foot in the conference playoff final. An impressive Nathan Arnold double fired the Mariners to a 2-1 away win at the side that finished 4th. Away goals play a part in deciding the winners of the playoffs on aggregate, so Town could afford to lose by 1-0 at home on Sunday in the second leg to qualify for the end-of-season showpiece. This bank holiday Monday, Hull City face Arsenal at the KC Stadium, full of confidence after back-to-back wins and clean sheets under their belt. Steve Bruce is boosted by the return of David Mailer from suspension and may also have one of the season's key men make a surprise return. And you can hear from Bruce on this in a moment. Scunthorpe United have their final game of the season on Sunday lunchtime. The 12:15 kick-off sees United travel to the Keepmoat to face Doncaster Rovers, knowing that League One football is secure for another year. However, the Iron players will want to use the game to help convince Mark Robbins they should be at the club for next year. Back at Hull City, and striker Nikita Jelavic has returned to training following knee surgery. Steve Bruce had previously said he didn't expect the Croatian forward to be considered for a return until the final few games of the season, but Bruce is going to keep an eye on Jelavic over the weekend.
The army trains for a couple of days and unfortunately at the minute it's still not 100% right. Jelavic has trained for the last 4 days with the squad. We'll see how he is over the next 3 training sessions, which we know are important. I said last Friday, with the army in the team, we picked up 25 points, which was quite remarkable. So you can see how important the striker is to us. So him coming back in, we'll see how he is. I'll give everybody a lift.
Friday night in Super League, Hull KR face Wigan Warriors at the DW Stadium, with the hosts having a 100% winning home record so far from their 6 games. However, Chris Chester's Chargers did win 22-20 at the KC Lightstream Stadium back in April. Elsewhere, Hull FC are boosted by the return of Richard Whiting, and Bobby Tyson Wilson could also come into contention as they face Salford.
That's all we have time for, I'm afraid. If you have a story for us, please go to our Facebook or Twitter pages. Details are on the screen. Email news@estuary.tv or phone Grimsby 31553. Hope you have an absolutely lovely long weekend, or are having one. Thank you very much, Emma, and let's hope that this really is the beginning of summer. Until next week, good evening.
Estuary TV's weather, sponsored by Hornsby's, celebrating 100 years in buses.
Hello and welcome to Estuary TV's weather. Tuesday's got sunny intervals with some showers, perhaps heavy, breezy throughout, maximum temperature 14 degrees. Wednesday's looking cloudy with more showers possible, sunny at times.
Estuary TV's weather, sponsored by Hornsby's, celebrating 100 years in buses.